This conference will now be recorded.
So I think yesterday we are done with this example, right? Click on App Launcher. In Contacts, think we worked on overriding the new one of the action, right? So when you click on new, when you populate everything, it was saving properly. And also when you click on cancel, it is coming back to the home page. For all that, I think we added logic. So on cancel, to navigate, we are firing one of the event. Navigate to a subject home. We are giving all these things and it is navigating. So one of our next topic is, so Salesforce is recommending to use, instead of using these events for the navigation, Salesforce is recommending to use Lightning Navigator. Okay, so there is a one of the standard component through that. So navigating is one of the recommended way as per the Salesforce documentation. So we are going to understand about that. Okay, so how we navigate to home page, how we navigate to one of the record, one of the web page. So all those kind of things I'm going to show as part of the current example which we are going to create. Okay, to discuss about the navigations, the different ways how we maybe include the navigation. I'm creating one of the component. Press F1, Aura component. This is the name I am giving. So this is a component. So maybe somehow maybe to show you how this navigation works. Let's say I want to add this component on the home page, and maybe we see the UI on the home page, and from there I'll show you the different ways how the navigation works. Okay, so in order to make this component available on the home page, we have to implement one of the interface available for all pages. We have to say, let's see, page available for all pages. That's something, one of the interface. If you are not sure, you can go to the component library, go to the list of interfaces. This is available for record home, that is only for record. Okay, so if you want to make this available for home page, so we need to make this available for all page types. So this is this one we need to use. Okay, so I'm using this one. It's available for all page types. So maybe let's add it on the home page, then we work on the UI. Okay, so for that, go to home page, click on gear icon, edit page. This page should be available on the home page. Navigation container. let's say maybe I'm adding here. Okay, so save it. So I think first time we are overriding the home page. So I'm activating this change for the entire organization. You can save, go back. Okay, so now because nothing is there, I think that's why we are not seeing anything. Maybe really it is showing. Let's maybe add one lightning card. Title. So maybe go navigation example. So that at least we should see this. Go back and just to refresh. Oh, sorry, right side it is there, right? Yeah. So here it is showing. So now what we are going to use when you see this component library, lightning navigation. So this is one of the, so this is what for navigation purpose, using this is recommended. Okay, so that's the thing. So let's see how by using this navigation service, this component, how we can achieve the navigation. Okay, first we need to copy this. This I'm keeping here. Maybe navigation service. So we need to find it and to set the net where exactly it should go. Let's say in order to send it to the record, maybe account object or whatever the object we want. That object home means when you click on the tab, so what is the screen we see? So for that, so this will work. Okay, so this is a process for that. Okay, maybe you can copy paste and use it, or maybe you can type it. It's up to us. Okay, so here this is the one. Let's open maybe controller. I'm giving this name. So all we need to do, find it. Right? So component dot find based on that name. So let's say I'm storing to the same. Okay, so how exactly it will work? We have to maybe form a object with the necessary parameters to navigate to a particular page. Okay, so this is one of the example on how we give the type and all those things. Even if you see the specification, so we'll see what are the supported attributes. By seeing documentation, we have to do. So I want to do the same thing. This. Okay, let's maybe copy. So page reference and like this type standard underscore object page and which object. Let's say I also want account, or if you want lead or opportunity or whatever we give the home page. Okay, so let's say what is our application? Let's say I want the lead home page. Say lead and action name. It should be home. So and this one finally. From here, we are going to generate the URL based on this object and store in one attribute and use that for the navigation. Okay, so here this navigation service dot, right? So generate URL. I think So one of the function is there. Okay, so here all we need to do is apply the object, the page reference object what we generated. Okay, so this will, what it will do, it will return the promise. Okay, again in the JavaScript there is a concept called promise. Promise means when there is a asynchronous logic similar to callback. So promise, the different way of syntax. Yeah, so once it is completed, so we use, this is also asynchronous, right? Instead of again going back and keeping the callback function, so we use then. Yeah, this is a JavaScript concept. Okay, so for the entire thing, maybe in the same line you use or next line, it's up to you how you want. Okay, so here, so there is a catch also in case of failure, and the catch what you want to handle, all those things. This returns a promise, and here it is going to return the whatever the callback is there that we keep here directly. Okay, so here maybe if you see this, this is example how it is going to return. So it is going to return two callbacks. Okay, so in case of the maybe success scenario, maybe in case of the error scenario, there are two parameters, so it's up to us. So which one, if you want to handle both, you can handle both. So it's like $a.get callback, and in the success scenario, one callback as a second callback error. In case of any error, that is a second callback. Okay, in the first callback, based on this page reference object, it returns the URL. In the second callback, error, it returns error. Okay, so when you have URL, so let's say when it is generated the URL, so what exactly you want to handle? So I'm seeing some error, unexpected token, comma. Okay, so this inside this actually, this is one callback and this is one callback, but here we have to write the callback function. One callback function, the URL will be here. For the second callback, the callback function, that is in the error scenario. Okay, so now let's say in case of URL is generated successfully, so that time here, so let's say to store that URL, I'm defining one of the attribute. Okay, so here Aura attribute name URL type string. Okay, into this attribute. So let's say really this returned URL, is it really having that component dot set v dot, our attribute name is URL. Maybe let's say this URL is empty. Only if the URL is there, maybe we assign that URL. Else, so let's say we are going to keep one default URL, constant default URL. In case the URL is not generated in a proper way, so let's say just like this. Okay, this is just we are not giving anything. Just if we apply this, it's like a default. Okay, so I'm just If the URL is there, the same URL we are assigning. If the URL is not there, then whatever the default value that we are assigning. So that's what we are doing. So in case of error scenario, so obviously the URL something is failed. Okay, so the default URL we are adding. So like that. So now all this logic, what it will do, it will based on this object here, whatever the object and whatever the attributes we supply, generate a URL, and that generated URL we are assigning to so one of the attribute URL, right? So that's what we are doing. So now when exactly we are going to call this? This should happen on load, right? On load, if you want to call any function, so what we do, we use handler, right? Or a handler, init handler. We need init handler, init. So value this, right? Repeatedly, most of the times we are using, right? do init, follow the same process. Now on load, it is going to call this, and the URL will be here, right? So let's say maybe I want to show that on the UI, so that if we click on that, it should go to that page. Okay, so maybe here I'm taking anchor tag href, so v.url, so the generated URL will be here, right? So I'm keeping that. So this is like lead home page link, right? Now maybe deploy and see how it looks. On load of the component, all this logic will be executed to this object home page. To navigate, one URL will be generated and assigned to this attribute, right? Now when you click on this, it will be navigating to that. That's what should happen. Go to home page and just refresh. But this should be little right side, right? So if you want the padding, again, go to component lightning design system. Under utilities, see padding. I want horizontal padding. Horizontal. So let's say I want to give this. Copy. Keeping this link into this. Deploy. Okay, so it is deployed. Go back. So now just refresh. Okay, so now if you click on this, it should go to the lead. When you click on tab, how it navigate to lead tab, like that it should navigate to lead. So click on this. If you see, it is navigating to lead. So that means that is working, right? Now in the same way, I maybe by default it is opening, and whatever the pinned view is there, that we see. But I want
Srini,
to
I have one question over here. Now we have said over here, navigate to leads tab, right? Leads one page. But if the tab is not created for that lead, so will still it be navigate over there? Now the tab is already existing. So leads tab is existing.
if the lead tab is not there, that's what you are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the lead tab is not there, so it cannot highlight the tab, right?
Okay.
So
it won't open that navigation link if I click on the home page and click on that particular link which we have just created. So it won't go and open that.
yeah, so in general, right? Yeah, so it might open, but it cannot highlight because it is not there.
Okay.
Yeah, so in general, even though the tab is not created, as a shortcut, what we do, we provide some right first 3 digits, and based on that we try to see the records. Right? Now, if you see
Okay.
the users, just I'm giving like that, and there is no tab, right? Now, yeah, now I think there is another tab, something like that.
Okay.
And maybe we don't know, maybe it might not highlight. Something like that will happen.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So now what I'm trying to say, I want this to highlight. So one of the list view. Okay. So it's not like blindly when you click on tab, it is highlighting whatever the pinned view. That's why I want to see today's leads. So that part, right? If you want like that. So let's see. So what we do. Okay. So for that, maybe in the examples, there is a state actually. Even if you read more in the documentation, for the state again, there will be some values like filter value, all those different values. So when you dig into documentation, you can find all those things. Okay. Now I'm going to show that how we do. So for that, go here. Okay, so maybe in the same doing it. So this is to navigate to until above everything is common. This is to navigate to the leads home. Now I'm going to write the logic, more or less same logic, slight change to navigate to the leads list view. We highlight one of the list view. That's what we are going to do. So now let's say list view page reference. Slightly I'm changing the name. It will be same, but it should be list. So how I know? When you see documentation, you can identify all these examples. Okay. So this should go to list base, and one more optional attribute in this is state. Okay. Into that, have this filter name. Here we have to supply that list view name where exactly it should navigate. Okay. So let's say it should go to today's leads. This list view. Give that name. Maybe type it today's leads. So that what it will do, it will be navigating to lead tab by highlighting the today's leads. So that's what it will do. Now here, this is a different page reference. Now this time I'm supplying that. Everything will be same. But the result, whatever it produce, I want to store in a different URL. Right? So let's say here, lead list view URL. So let's say into this attribute I want to store. Yes, yeah, all we need to do replace this. This time it should assign into this. Okay, and now slightly maybe I'm adding one more card here. Navigation. This is navigation to object. Oh, this one navigation to a particular list view. So this is a URL giving, maybe I'm deploying. Okay, so now let's go back and see. So now when you click on this one, so maybe link name I did not change. Lead list view. Deploying. Just a refresh. So click on this. So I'm expecting it should highlight. I think it is having a special character. Let me open this. So let me try to rename. Maybe it might expect the API name. Let me check. It might be expecting the API name. So just I'm replacing with the API name. Deploy. So I gave the label, right? So internally the uniqueness of the view will be maintained with the API name. So maybe now let me click on home. Now click on this. Now it is highlighting today's records, right? Maybe we don't have. If there are records, maybe it will work. Okay, so that is about one of the example. So one more thing. Now here, all we are doing, we are generating the URL, right? So when you go to documentation, when you go to here, we also have navigate. Maybe I don't want to specially click on a, maybe I don't want any link. Let's say I have a button and click on the button. In the function, it should generate the URL and automatically it should navigate to URL. Especially again, I don't want to store in one variable and show that on the URL. Okay, I'll click on some action. Immediately it should navigate to one of the URL. So that time, so this will be useful. Okay. So maybe let's see how that will work. So for that, I'm going to define one function here on click navigation, something, right? Function component and the event. So same process, we need this. We need to have the ID, local ID of this navigation service. Need to find it. And maybe still we have the page reference. We need the page reference. So similar to this, we need to construct the page reference. Maybe I go with this. Let's say this time we are sending this to let's say accounts one at that one. So everything is common. Now this navigation service dot navigate. Right. So I think this is a function name. We need to give that, and inside that we have to give the page reference. Now we are not generating URL. We are directly navigating to this page reference what we constructed. Okay. Yeah. This one, maybe I'll introduce one button and call from there. Right. Let's say I'll say on click navigation example. Maybe here I want a button, lightning button, label. So let's say navigate to account form. That's the name of the button. On click, C dot, name of the function. This is the name
Srini, your
of.
voice is getting low, up and down. I'm not sure if it is for me only or others as well.
Okay. So maybe is it fine now?
No, still low.
Yeah,
Still.
for me, it's
Okay. Maybe not sure. Let me switch my internet connection. Hello.
Yes, Sri.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So now are you able to hear me properly?
Yes.
now fine.
Now I think the screen is stuck. Let me share my screen. Share. So I think it is taken some time to share the screen. So let me know when you see the website Lightning Design System.
It's very
I
nice.
think now, okay. Now go back. So here what I am trying to explain, it's not that every time we are going to only generate URL. You can also maybe call directly on calling the function. Navigation is also possible. For that, this is the example. Let's see. Deploy. I think it ran successfully now. Go back. Go to home. Now this is the button. Clicking on this, you should go to the account home. It is going. So that means on click also it is working. So now what I want to show you, it should navigate to the new record creation page. For example, on click, automatically it should navigate to this. When we click on new, how it navigate and where we can populate the information. It should navigate to this one. But what I want, while navigating, I want to provide some default values. Let's say website or account number or something. I want to pre-populate that. It should navigate and also it should pre-populate that information. So that is what I want. Okay. So for that, maybe URL I will generate, and when I click on one of the URL, so it should navigate to that. Okay. So for that, again, go to here, maybe on load only. So I'm going to place the logic here. Okay, so maybe this is to this view page, and done. Now in the same init method, okay, I'm going to generate URL to navigate to the new record and also pre-populate the information. Okay, to navigate to a new record base with pre-populated values. So that's what we want. And maybe we can reuse this, right? Already we have this in this service. Generate URL, same thing we're going to reuse. In between all the new thing, what we need to do, this page reference, to go to the new page. So what is the page reference? Okay. So this is same. And so what we need to do, action name, instead of home, it should be a new page, right? So that's it. And maybe here, new record page reference. And maybe this is common. This one is common. All we do new page reference. It will be generating URL as per that. Maybe I want to store in one attribute. So let's say new account record URL into this attribute. Whatever it generated should be the same. Okay. So, but in between, what we need to do, we need to pre-populate the values, right? So, which values you want to pre-populate? For that, I'm going to create one object, JavaScript object, to hold name and value pairs, which we want to pre-populate. Default values is equal to. So here, API name of the field. Let's say maybe I want to pre-populate the website, right? So let's say this website, I want to pre-populate with some value. Let's say I want to pre-populate this URL. So like that, whatever maybe you want to pre-populate, maybe type, maybe rating I'll keep as hot. So like that, let's say I'm giving these two values to pre-populate. And also when you are pre-populating, so what we do, again, there is one of the tag we have. Okay, so page reference utils, some tag will be there. So through that only we can maybe, so the data whatever we are giving should be encoded, and that should be sent to that new, and the navigation is happening. The data should be encoded and sent. Okay, so for that, that tag will be useful. Okay, so for that, so let me go to the documentation. Somewhere here we will see page reference details. So this is what. Okay, so now all we need to do, so when we refer that one, we have to encode. We can encode that, and supply the information into that. On UI, we need to include this. On the UI, like Lightning navigation service. And to identify this, Aura ID is equal to this is some ID I'm giving. Now we need to find it. So what we need to do, this page reference, whatever we have, that page reference is having an attribute called state. So in that, there is a again attribute called default values. So into that, we need to assign this. Okay, now from this to get that. So from the object, if you want to get that state, so for now, this is not having any attribute called state, right? In JavaScript, how we can introduce a new property into the object? Say dot, if state is not there, when you refer, it will generate, right? Again, in that, so there is attribute default field values. Maybe if it is wrong, you can search and maybe somewhere in the documentation you can find. I think this is also same name we'll be having, but it's only up to this. Okay, into this, we are going to find this component dot find, supply that ID. Through that, here we have encode, right? We need to encode and supply while supplying. Encode default values. To this, whatever we prepared, we have to supply. So that way, so our information will be encoded and that values will be assigned to. Technically, what it will happen, it will add like this, and in that, it will add this default values and assign that value. That's what will happen. That through JavaScript we are adding. Okay, so that's it. So, and now finally, anyway, we gave this URL here and it will generate the generated URL. We are assigning to this. Now this will be having that generated URL to navigate to the new account by pre-populating the existing values. Okay. Now for that, maybe only this. To navigate to a new record creation page, maybe new record with the pre-populated value. With the default value, let's say. The URL new account with default values. The URL is this. Into this we are assigning. Let's see. So that's it. Now let's left side deploy. So it is deployed. So now let's go back, click on home. I think we are seeing what we deployed. So cannot set property default field values of undefined. There is error. So go to this. State spelling is wrong. Spelling is correct. And import the default values. So everything is looking correct. Cannot set property default values of undefined. Like place reference it is. This is the idea I'm giving. We are finding import values and assigning. Should be correct. Okay, so let me choose this one of the example for this. It is showing the Aura one. Yeah, this is what, right? Somehow when I did the research also, same kind of issue I got. Encode default values. Everything is correct, right? Okay, so let me do this. Is it expecting same name? But that should not be the case. Let me try with that. Deploy. Just refresh. Encode default values undefined. So let me. Yeah, even when I did research, I got same issue. And now since here I have changed it, I have to change here also. Change. Just I'm wondering what is wrong here. Okay, so is it expecting this interface? So let's add that.
There was one more action override.
Yeah, that is not needed actually.
Okay.
So we are not overriding anything, right? So actually, this is also not needed. Just I'm wondering. So let me do one thing. Already I did some research on this. Let's see. So this exactly same thing we have. And here page reference settings. Same thing. Same thing we have here. Find reference. Complete, just refresh. Everything is correct only. So let me try giving access as global. Default values not defined. Okay. Here I have changed this value actually. I have renamed that value. Just to refresh. So actually in this So this is that one actually. So it is working here. Just I'm wondering what is missing here. This is same thing. Let me use these interfaces. Okay, so let me do one thing. Exactly, this is same. Let me copy everything. But also, this is the different name. Everything is same. So now, so what exactly is wrong with it? Main thing. Okay. So maybe we did not define this state. Maybe it was not able to generate that. So here we don't have this node. Maybe that might be the issue. So I thought that this also it can generate. Looks like that should be there. Yeah, so that is due to this. So somehow what is happening, I did not include this here. And somehow since it is not able to find that.
What I believe is whatever properties we have to use, even if you are giving it dynamically later on, that just needs to be listed over there, which attributes you are going to use. That's what I'm thinking in new record.
This one, right? Yeah.
Oh, the state one, because you are adding the state, right? But initially, while creating the state, while creating this particular object, page utils or something, just little bit go up.
Yeah. So what I am saying, right? How it will work? Maybe if you do like this, now it will work. Even though you don't define here. Okay. So since I did not set anything for that and trying to, which is not there, and I am trying to put, right? If you see, this is not there, right? This
Yeah, you have not added that property into that. So new page reference.
Yeah.
So
what I'm
that's
saying
why it was
here,
not
you
able to see.
define. We need to assign something into that. So I think that way it will work. Let's see. Now still I did not define, right? Now here I'm adding. Let's see, I think it should work like that. Okay, now if you see it is working. So the last one, whatever we refer, we have to assign something. Otherwise, it's not. That's the mistake. Anyway, so now when you click on this, sorry, when you go back, when you click on this, you see the default values populate. That website is there, and the rating, where is rating? Rating is hot, right? So that means, yeah, it is working fine, right? So like that. So now maybe for you, I think you asked for assignments, right? So one of the assignment I have added to the notes. So what you need to do, whenever you open any contact, for contact mailing country, let's say if I choose country as USA, it has to display the USA flag. And if you choose Australia, Australia flag, like that. Okay. So maybe close it and introduce that component on right side. Okay. So let's say here on top, add one component. So maybe selected country. Inside that, show the country flag, right? If the selected country is USA, I want to see USA. If it is Australia, Australia, India, India, like that. Okay. So that is our assignment. Maybe upload some set of countries. Let's maybe choose 10 countries and get all the flags. Upload as a static resource. Already we saw examples how we read the images from a zip static resource. Read it and show. And also here one of the thing, if I edit and change country and save, automatically the component should refresh and I want to see the latest country flag. I don't want to again refresh and see that manually. Okay. So that's the assignment. Okay. So just to try for that. Anyway, maybe at the end I'll explain. That's the assignment. So before ending today, any questions, anyone? Okay. So maybe the upcoming topic tomorrow, what we are going to discuss, I'll show you how we embed the Lightning component inside the Visual Force space. And also maybe Visual Force space, if you want to show to the public, how we can show. Maybe if you see, maybe I ask you to register, right? Or maybe I ask you to enter your email address to log into the class account. This is actually a Lightning component, multiple Lightning components embedded together. And but directly showing Lightning component to public is not possible. We added Lightning components into the Visual Force, and this Visual Force I'm showing to public. Same thing how we do that. That is our next example, and after that, events. Those are the upcoming topics. Okay, so any questions before ending today? Maybe daily I'll come up with some assignments. So along with what we are discussing, if you do those assignments, it's like a huge practice. So it's like you worked on a big project. But really, when we work, we don't get chance to do all these things. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.